Happy Sunday evening. Just trying to get my other tablet up here. So make sure you say something when you come in so that I know, and I'm going to secondly turn my little banner off. Okay, and get the comments up here. I can see myself on my tablet now, so that's good. Hi, everybody. All right, let's see if I can get into this just a second here. Have to, oh, there we are. Woohoo, everybody seeing me? Cool, okay. I have a lot more equipment now with StreamYard, but I like it because I can switch microphones and cameras. So it's a lot easier when I go to actually do an event. So, but okay, so this week we're gonna do something a little different that we haven't done in so long with Jan. For those of you who used to come to Dream Club at the store, we did a lot of work in the design center, IQ designer area in the machine. So if you have a Luminaire Solaris, Dream Machine Destiny, and then the newer machines, some of the newer machines have this too, the Altair, which is the Baby Lock, the Stellaires, and then there's the Meridian, which is an embroidery only. A lot of the machines have this area. So what it is, it's a digitizing program, basically right in the machine. So you can create designs right directly in your machine. And it is really neat. I like using it. It's fun. It's very easy to do. And so this is a class that I did in there in Dream Club some years ago. And this is what it looks like. So I'll hold it up here for you. So here's the little wall hanging. It's Hello Fall. But this time, instead of just giving you instructions on how to make it yourself, I actually did provide you with a PES file. For those of you who do not have this function, you can still sew this cute little thing out, and it fits in that little 6x6 frame. So I like these hanging, you know, for the fall and the different seasons. I like these hanging. I've got this hanging in my sewing room, sitting on a shelf, and I like to hang these little banners. So we're going to do this one tonight, and right in the machine though. So for some of you who have not used this function before in your machine, it's really fun. You can do a lot with it, okay? So, and then we'll do a little bit of sewing at the end. So I'll show you how to stitch it out real quick. It's very simple to sew. We'll kind of do the beginning of it, and then I've got a sample sewn up so that you can see at the end. And I also gave you the instructions for sewing it. So anyway, so I'm going to switch my camera, and then we're going to go into Design Center. We're going to do a little creating tonight. It's really fun. So, all right, so give me just a second here. I need to switch my camera over. Now I do have my camera on a tripod tonight. So let me know if you can't see something very well. I have to switch my microphone also. Okay. So can you hear me okay on the microphone now? Make sure you can hear me okay. It looks like you can see that camera. Hopefully you can still hear me, so just let me know if you can still hear me okay. Everybody hearing me okay? Oh, I'm getting thumbs ups. Awesome. Awesome. So you're still hearing me all right. So I just switched the machine. I just switched the camera and the mic over. Okay. All right, so give me a second here. I've got this tripod, and I have to be careful not to bonk it too much. All right, so what we're going to do is I have also up on, remember, to get the files that I'm using tonight. So this instruction sheet is also in there. Go to the group, so along with Jan, and the first post is the Dropbox link. And then you can go, and it's called Hello Fall Mini Quilt. So you can go download there's a PES file in there. There's these instructions in there. And then there's a JPEG image that we're going to use when we go to scan. Okay. So those are all in the Dropbox. Okay. So what I have done here, I have a couple of other things that some of you may have never used before. So here is, I'm going to turn my camera just a little bit so you can see over here. This is the scanning mat. This comes with the machines that have that ability. And what I did is I printed out that little JPEG image that I gave you, and I put it on a piece of paper, and then I've got it on my scanning mat. So that's what we're going to use that in a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to put that back in the machine, just like a regular hoop. It goes in there just like a regular hoop. And then the other thing I have done is, I'll hold this out. I have a hard time doing some of the stuff with just my finger on the screen when I work in Design Center, because sometimes I need a very specific little area. So what I do is and also the little stylus thing that comes with the luminaires and the Solarises is just too big. So my favorite thing to use is a wired mouse. And so the best mice for these machines is actually ones that are cheap. And this is a little wired. Wireless does not work. This is a little travel mouse I bought at Walmart for like $6. Okay, so this works real well with mine. It's plugged in. You see the wire hanging there. Okay, and I've got it over here underneath my other laptop so I can use it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this little wall hanging. And you kind of have to think through the steps, okay, as you're doing it, just like you would in your software. You kind of think through the steps and the lines and the things that you need to be doing at certain times, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to actually, for Design Center, I actually like to set up the hoop I want to use. And I'm going to do this in a 6x6 hoop. I actually sewed it in a 6x10 just because I had two of those. I didn't have two 6x6s. So to get to where I can change my hoop size, and I don't know if you saw where I clicked on the settings page, which is the piece of paper up here. And I'm going to go to, it's page either 6 or 7, or 7 or 8, depending on the machine you're on. I think the luminaire is on 8. Okay, so where it says embroidery frame display. So I like to set my embroidery frame up so that I know where I'm working. Okay. So I'm going to go get that little 6x6 hoop. Right now I'm on the big one. So I'm going to go grab my 6x6 here. It's down here towards the bottom. You may not be able to see it. And I clicked 6x6, and that's what's going to show on my screen when I'm in Design Center now. So I have a representation of my hoop. And it's sort of like what I do in PE design when I choose a hoop, because then I know where I'm working and I have what area I have to work within. Okay, so now, depending on if you're a brother or a baby lock machine, okay, mine's a brother, so mine says My Design Center down here. If you have a baby lock machine, it says IQ Designer, same thing, okay? The icons are slightly different colors and they're in a slightly different place, but you'll be able to figure it out. Okay, so My Design Center. Oh, just a second here. I got to move this over. Things are moving. Okay, so here's My Design Center. The first thing that I want to do is make a placement line for my batting, because I'm going to lay some batting in the hoop and some fabric. So I need to make a placement line first. Now I did this one a little different than I do some of my little designs like this, because I did it more like Janine Babish does hers. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is use a single stitch. So if you look up here, and I'm using my mouse, you can probably see it wiggling around. These are the line properties at the top, and these are the fill properties in the second set. So there's like buttons, and then this is the properties button. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to click on that line properties button, and I want this to be a single stitch. Now this software in Design Center really doesn't have a true single stitch. It is going to go around it twice, just so you know. And then there's a triple stitch. So I've never gotten it to only go around one time. So we're going to use this first one because I want to do the single stitch-ish. And then I'm going to make it red. So let's go down here and just pick a red chip at the bottom. And I'm going to click OK. Okay, so now we've got the type of stitch we want. And then I'm going to go get a shape. And there's a little key right here that's a stamp or a shape. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I just need an outline right now. So I'm going to click the outline. There's different tabs here The first one is outlines, the second one is fills, and the third one is outlines and fills. So I just need an outline to start with, and I'm going to go and click on the square, and I'm going to click OK down at the bottom. And you may not be able to see the bottom. Just a second here. Let me see, move it down just a little bit so you can see a couple of these other, there we go. So you can see a couple of these other buttons down here. Okay. Now I need to size this. So it's not the right size. And so I need to click the size button. And then I want this to be 5.75 inches square. If I use this first button that has all the arrows pointing inward, that means that is going to take that square down in aspect ratio. So I'm going to push this button until I get to 5.75. And I have these all written out on instructions for you. And I'm happy with that. So there's 5.75 inches square, and I'm going to click OK at the bottom. Okay. Now I need to change some of the run stitch properties. And since I learned to digitize in millimeters, I find it difficult to digitize in inches. So I can switch back and forth. So I'm going to raise the camera just a hair so you can see where I'm clicking. I'm clicking again on the settings. Right now I'm in inches, and I want to go back to millimeters for a minute. So I'm going to click the settings page. On the Luminaire, it is page 9. On the Dream Machine Destinies, it's page 8. And I'm going to click inches and make it into millimeters temporarily, and then we'll go back again in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to click the OK button at the bottom. So I'll put this down just a little bit again so you can see the OK button. And then I'm going to go to my, oh, I have to click next. Sorry, I forgot to click next first. That's okay, we already did the other part. So I click next. And this is where it lets me change that run property. So it lets me change the length of my stitch. So I want my stitch to be 2.5 millimeters. So I'm going to make it a little longer. Okay. And then I'm going to click OK. Now, if you have a Dream Machine or Destiny, I think the Meridians, the Baby Lock, the smaller machines, like the Meridians, the Stellaires, all that, have a preview page too. And so if you might have a button that says preview here. I just have a button that says OK. Mine does not have a preview page on it. It does an auto preview. Okay. So you might have to hit preview or set and then OK. All right. So you might have an extra button to do. And I just have one. All right. So I am ready to set this. So I'm happy with that square. I made it 2.5 millimeters for the stitch length. So I'm happy with that. And so I'm going to click the set button down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to click OK. So, oh, well, gosh, this looks familiar. This is the sewing page. So it took us over to the sewing page. So that's pretty cool. So now we're ready to sew this. But, I need more to my design. So I need, we had a placement line, then we're going to lay our batting down, and our back, on this particular one, I have fusible fleece adhered to the back of the fabric. So I need to lay that down in the placement line, and then I need to tack it down. Okay. So this next line is going to be a tack down line. So we need to tack our fabric down. So I'm just kind of thinking this through, like, how am I going to do this design? So I have it right here on my screen, but we're on the sewing side. But you know what? I can duplicate. So I'm going to hit edit. This is just the sewing area. And then this button here with the two little squares is called the duplicate button. So I'm just going to click that. And now, as you can see, I have two squares on my screen. And I need to get them centered on top of each other. Right now, they're kind of, aside of each other. So I'm just going to click move. The second one is chosen. So I'm just going to click the little polka dot button down here, which is center. And now they're on top of each other. And I'm going to click OK. So now I have two lines. So if I were to go into embroidery, I would see two lines. Okay. But I have more things to do in this screen. I would like to change the color of the second one, which is my tack down, because I need the machine to stop in between them so I can do something like normal applique. So I am going to click this color button, and I'm still in the edit screen, and I'm going to touch the second outline so you can see them both here. Okay. And I want to make this one blue. So let's just choose a blue down here. Doesn't matter which blue it is. And I'm going to click OK. So now I have a red line and a blue line. And if I click embroidery here, we can always back up. Here's red and here's the blue. Okay, so there's two lines there. I'm going to back up because we're not done yet. Okay, so if I go back, this is the editing screen again. All right, so now I need to put a couple more things in here. So guess what? Not only can I add designs into another design, like you bring up a design and then you can hit the add button down here and you can add more designs. I can also add more things from Design Center. So I'm going to click add, but instead of going like into my designs and just picking a design up here, I'm going to go back to my Design Center. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and I want to, so we got our placement line, we placed our fabric with our fusible fleece, I'll get it right yet, and then I've tacked it down. So the first two lines are done. But now I would like to quilt on top of that fabric so it's pretty. So this I quilted with, as you can see, I'll lay this in front of the camera for a second. See the little diamonds. So we're gonna quilt with those diamonds now. Okay, so make sure I don't miss a step here. Okay, so we're gonna go, and that is gonna be a fill. Remember, the top buttons here are for the lines, and the bottom buttons are for the fills, this group of buttons here. So I'm gonna click on the fill properties, which is this button right here. And I would like it to be a decorative fill. So the first one is just a plain old like regular fill. We're going to use that later. The second one is stippling. And then the third one is all these really pretty decorative fills that are in the machine. Okay. And I'm going to click select. And I would like to select the little diamond pattern. This is my little diamonds right here, number 6. I think everybody should have that. Depending on your machine and how many upgrades you have in some of the machines will the first two, Denise. Oh yeah, okay, so Denise, this one is done a little differently. I didn't use batting on this one. I used fusible fleece. So I have a piece of fusible fleece attached to the back of my fabric. I made a placement line to set that unit down in, and then the second line's for the tack down. So that is in the sewing instructions, and then we'll do that yet tonight too. Does that make sense? So there's a placement line and a tack down line. Okay, so we got our fill. So we're going to click number 6. But depending on the machine you have and how many upgrades you have, you'll have a variety of different fills. This is the Luminaire. I have all the upgrades in it, and I have 42. Okay, different fills. But we're going to use number 6 because I think everybody has that one. Okay, whoops. Haven't got all the way up there yet. There we go, number 6. And then I'm going to click OK at the bottom. Now, I would like this to be a different color because, I need the machine to stop when I'm doing different things. So I want it to stop. So I'm going to just choose a green and make it green. And then I'm going to click OK. Okay, so now I have my little diamonds here and it's green. But I need now to create my area that I have that I want filled. So I'm going to go back to that little stamp button, the little square and circle down here. And I'm going to go this time to a different tab. So the first one we said was the outlines. The second one is a fill. So this one's going to be a fill, remember? So we're going to click the fills. And again, I'm going to get my square. Okay, and then I'm going to click OK. And there is my square that I chose filled with my decorative stitch. But it's not quite the right size. So we need to go back to the size button again. And then we're going to, I need to change back to inches because, you know, I can't figure out how big things are in millimeters. So I'm going to raise this up just a second. Go back up here. When I do this, as many of you remember, I go back and forth between inches and millimeters a lot. So we're going to go back up to the settings. I'm going to go back to page 8 or 9. Mine is 9. The Dream Machines were 8. And I'm going to go back to inches like that and click OK at the bottom. You may not be able to see the OK button, but I'm clicking OK at the bottom. Okay, so let me push this down a little bit. Okay. Then I am going to, I look up here and it says that I have 6.19. Well, I want that to be 5.75. That's the size we made ours. So I'm going to go ahead and click that same button with the arrows, all 4 of them pointing in. And I'm going to go down to 5.75. And I encourage those of you who are going to do this on your own or are working with me, try the mouse. The mouse works quite well. Okay. All right, so 5.75 by 5.75. So then I've got my fill down here, and I'm going to click OK. I'm happy with that. Try not to miss anything. Okay, so then we're going to do a couple of extra little things to that little diamond shape. When I click Next, this page gives me options of doing things to my fills. So for the top one, this is the size of the fill. So actually, I'd like the fill to be, this is not a very big wall hanging, so I would like the fill to be a little smaller. So I'm actually going to go down to 80% because I kind of fiddled around with it and I made it a little smaller. And then I'm going to click OK. So it's going to be a little smaller. And then I'm going to leave this percentage tile here is the angle of the diamonds. And I like the diamonds the way they are, so I'm just going to leave it at 0. I want the third one down is the outline. And for those of you with the Dream Machines, you may have to turn this off. This, I don't want this on because what it does is it does a square, another rectangle or square around the outside edge. And I don't want that on, so I want the outline off. The Luminaires and the Solarises, it defaults it off. Okay. And the other thing that I want to change down here, there's a couple of these buttons that the Dream Machines and Destinies and like some of the newer machines like the Stellaires will not have. But this bottom button is on my Luminaire, and this is something that I do want to change something on. This allows me to change the thickness of the embroidery. And these fills are relatively thick, and they actually are defaulted at being kind of thick, and I don't like them quite that thick, so I'm going to use the second button here and make it a little thinner, so it'll be like a single line instead of a triple line all the time. Okay, so it won't be quite as thick. So I'm going to change that, and those of you with some like the Dream Machines and Destinies won't be able to do that. That's something that was new in the Luminaire. Okay, so now I'm happy with this. I think that's good, and I'm going to click Set and OK. So now we've got, if you look here on the side, I've got 3 things. I've got, you know, my placement line, the tack down line for the fabric and the fusible fleece, and then I've got my quilting over here. Okay, so, but we're not quite done yet. We need to put some more stuff in here. So we're going to click Add again, and I'm going to go back to my design center. Instead of, you know, getting a design, I'm just going to go back to my design center. Okay, now I would like to put something pretty, like a decorative outline around my wall hanging. And so this time we're going to be using the line properties, which again is these top lines up here. Okay, so I'm going to click the line properties. And I think I'd like some candle wicking on this one. I think the candle wicking is really pretty. So the 4th one over is my candle wicking. Okay. And I'm going to make this, so let's pick a gold color for that. And I'm going to click OK. So now that's what's up here in my line properties. That's whatever I choose, that my line will be that now. And I'm going to go back and get another square. So I'm going to click my stamp key or the little circled square. I'm going to go back to the first tab, and I'm going to use an outline. So again, I just need an outline this time. There's no fill, and I'm going to click OK. And whoops, just a second. Oh, I got it. I got the square. Sorry, let me show you again. I got the outline, and then I need the square. Okay, I forgot to click twice, and then click OK. Then I'm going to resize this, but this time I want it smaller than the other ones because I want it to be inside the stitching. So I'm going to size this. I'm going to click the size button, and this one I'm going to make 4.75. So I've got my my sizes up here, and I'm going to click the button with the arrows all pointing in, and I'm going to make it 4.75 by 4.75, like that. So then it's going to be inside my other stitching. And I'm going to click OK. So we got the size of our square the way we want it. Now we need to do a couple things maybe to the candle wicking. So I'm going to click next. And that will let me go in here. And if I want to change anything, but see, now look what happened. Something else happened. I must have 2 squares. So I'm going to return, because I think I have 2 squares and I need to get rid of one of those. So I think the one I need to get rid of is this big one. Let's see if I can get rid of that one. I'm going to click at the bottom, I'm going to click this little selection tool, and I'm going to try to get rid of that bigger one. I think that's the one that's chosen. It looks like that's the one that's red, and that's the one I need to get rid of. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click hopefully delete or cut. Here we go. The scissors. There we go. Whoops. Okay, that cut everything. Well, we don't want that. All right, let's see. I must have, let me clear back a little bit, and we'll have to do that last one again. Sometimes if something goes wrong, it's a little hard to get things cleared off of this. So I'm just going to clear this off. I just selected it all again, and I'm just going to clear it. And we'll just do that last square again. So we already got our candle wicking here, and I'm going to go back and get my stamp because I made a mistake there and I had 2 of them. Okay, so here's my square. Click OK. And then I'm going to make the size of it 4.75 inches by 4.75 inches. Whoops. Make sure I don't overshoot it. I have a little trouble sometimes with if I get in a hurry, I click like twice, and then I have to go back and kind of take something out and put something back in again. Okay, so there's the 4.75 by 4.75. I think I'm happy with that size. I'm going to click OK, and now we can click next. Now I think we just have one. There. Yep. So I just got the little candle wicking around the inside. That's where I want it. Now, I thought the default sizes were fine. So if you want to change those, you can, but I thought they looked fine. So I'm just going to leave them as they are. And I'm going to click Set. And OK. So now we're back on that screen again, like on the sewing side. So, here's our placement line. Here's our tack down line for the fabric and the fusible fleece. Here's the quilting. And here's our decorative outline. So we got all of that on there. Okay, but we're not quite done yet. So we need to add some more stuff. So I'm going to click the Add button again. I'm going to go back to my Design Center. And this time, I want to add an embroidered design. Okay, so we can also do that by using, I'm going to make sure I didn't lose my place here. This is going to be that little pumpkin design. So we're actually going to create this ourselves, this little pumpkin design down here. Okay, we're going to create that out of this little picture I have here. So I put the picture, let me turn the camera here just a little bit. I put the picture on the scanning mat over here, and it's on the scanning mat, and I have the little magnets holding it down so it won't fall, it won't, move around. Okay. Make sure I don't lose my place. Okay, so I got the image on the scanning mat, And now I have to go back over here, and we need to make the machine scan into Design Center, because we're in Design Center here, and we need to make the machine scan into it. So if you are on a Luminaire or a Solaris, there is a little button up here that looks like a leaf. Okay. And then it gives you three options. It gives you the option for an image scan. So it just becomes another JPEG, a line image, a line design, or an illustration design. So what I need for it to do is I want it to be a line design. Okay. So I clicked up here at where the little leaf is, and then I'm going to click line design. If you have a Dream Machine or a Destiny, there were other buttons on there. One of it says line and then scan and then OK. So you need to click the line button because we just need an outline for this particular design. OK. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to click my line design, and I'm going to click scan. And it says I don't have my little flipper down, so of course I have to do that. Then I have to click scan again. Okay. Now the frame's going to move, and it's going to scan over here. So let me just move this so it's scanning over here. There's my little picture, and it's scanning. It's thinking. Now I would tell you, if you have a dark thread, this is a very good scanner. So if you have a dark thread in your machine, I would highly recommend taking the thread out, because it literally will scan the thread tail through the picture. So I have mine not threaded. It's threaded, but I got the thread ready to be threaded, but I just left it up in the little threader thing. Otherwise, it's a very good scanner. So it has to scan, has to think for a minute. So how many people have used the scanning mat? How many people have tried this? It's really fun. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the screen. Let's go back over here. Okay, so this is what comes up. And it is, here's our little design in the center. Now, I don't need all this other gobbledygook in here, so they allow you to crop out just the design part that you want. Okay, like that. I'm just going to try to get as close to, you know, that X section that as I can. And I'm going to click OK. Now the default stitch line is actually going to be a satin stitch, and oops, you probably can't see it. It's just a little bit lower. Down here, you see this looks like a satin stitch. So I wanted it to be a satin stitch, so I didn't change anything. Okay, so if you want it to be different, you need to change that. But we're just going to leave it at a satin stitch. And then I'm going to click set. Okay, now you can still see my little magnets and stuff on here. I don't really want those on there. And what that is the backdrop. So you can turn that background off and just get it out of your way so you don't have to mess with it. And the background is up here on the Luminaire. It's this little thing here, and you can just click over to the left and it just turns it off. So now see, it's gone. And all I can see is the little 6x6 hoop that I chose and my scan in the center. Okay. Now I'm looking a little bit at this, and I noticed that there are a few messy little things. So sometimes when you scan, things don't scan perfectly, and you may need to do some cleanup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click the zoom in button up here. And I'm going to zoom in pretty big. Let's do like 400%. Okay. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to do something with the crop, and we can still do it, but we can just erase it too. I don't want the words "Hello Fall" in there. I'm going to do those with my letters in the machine. So we'll just take it out with the eraser. So with the eraser, I've got it big so I can see what I'm doing, and the eraser tool is over here. And I'm going to use a pretty good size tool, so that default size is pretty good. And then I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to erase Hello Fall. I forgot to crop it out. I meant to crop it out and I forgot. I do that in the instructions, but I forgot. Okay, so we're just going to take that out first. Okay, and then you can scroll over here. So here's the rest of it here. I wanted to use the lettering in the machine. Oops, I lost it. I think I need to go this way. There we go. Here's another little dot there. Sometimes you get like little, like if you got something on your mat, you know, something will be there. Okay, so I got Hello Fall off of there. And then I want to go down with the tip size of my eraser a little bit because I need to fix it. I don't know if you can see it real well on the screen, but there's some like little lines in my leaves here that really don't need to be there. And sometimes the machine does that if the line is too thick, and it'll like put a little point in things that you really don't need. So I'd like to get rid of those. So I'm going to go back to my eraser tool, and I want to go down to tip size 4. So I'm going to just bring this down to the number 4. So that's a really small tip. And I think I'll just leave the round one and click OK. Now I can go in here and I can get rid of those little lines that are like on the points of my leaves because they just look weird. And so I'm just going to be carefully erase those lines. I'm just holding my mouse button down and then going up with the little eraser and getting rid of those little lines. And it was mostly just in the leaves that I noticed it. So there must have been like a thicker line down in there or something. So I'm just erasing those little lines because anything you see here will sew. Okay, so if you don't like what you see, it's going to sew. All right, so let's go over here and let's see if there's a couple more of those over here too. Okay, so there's another one. Here's another one. So I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. Like that. That looks better. Then if you want to make sure, just kind of, you know, pull the little sliders over and you can kind of tell if everything's okay. Now on the Dream Machines and the Destinies, I believe you have like a little pan hand. There's a little hand that you can go up here and pan. We have the sliders. They changed a few things in the Luminaire, so to make it easier. I think that looks pretty good now. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to go back down to 100%. So I think I'm happy with that. Okay, now I would like this to be down towards the bottom of my design area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that select box that we chose earlier. Let me just tip the camera just a little bit. Here's that select box again down here, the square. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to select that whole area. That is my outline. And then I'm just going to move it down. If I hit the size button, there's move buttons here. So here's the center. And then if I just move it straight down towards the bottom of my design. So it doesn't need to be all the way down, but I'm just going to move it kind of down about where I want it. Okay. And then I'll click OK. All right. Now I do want this to be a particular size. So since we still have it selected, see it's selected with red down here. I want this to be a particular size. So I'm going to go back into the size button. And I would like it to be 4 inches wide. So if I go up in aspect ratio, in other words, use the button that the arrows are all 4 sides pointing outward, it will go out in aspect ratio to each other. And I want it to be 4 inches wide. So I'm going to look at the bottom number so that I can go up to 4 inches. And see, I overshot it. So we're going to make it 4 inches wide. I don't remember how tall it is then. I'm getting closer. There we go. So 4 inches. So it's about 1.8 inches tall. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks good. It's kind of down towards the bottom. And now we need to, I'd like this to be a filled design. So see, I filled it. So now this is how you would fill that outline. So the outline is a satin stitch, as you can see, but we can fill this too so that it has a fill in it. So what I'm going to do is the fill properties. I have to click OK first. The fill properties are here. Again, the second section of buttons. We're going to click the fill properties. And I would like it to be the standard fill, which is the default. Okay, and then I would like it to be orange. So my pumpkin is going to be orange. And I'm going to click OK. Then in order to fill my pumpkin, I have to get my paint pot. That's the fill tool. So I'm just going to click on the little paint pot, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm just going to click in the areas of the pumpkin. So that made my pumpkin orange. And then if you need to zoom up, you can still do that. I also would like to fill the leaves and the little stem on the pumpkin. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my fill property. And this time I would like to get a green, and then I'm going to fill the leaves. It doesn't matter. I just want it to be a green, and I'm going to click OK. And this one I am going to have to zoom up a little bit. It's a little bit hard to see. So let's zoom this up a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Hit undo. Undo is our friend. Okay, so I've got my paint pot over here, and I'm going to click in these areas of the leaves. Okay, so that one is open. So see how it did that? See how it filled that whole thing? If I click undo, I need to go look and see, oh, I've got an open spot down here. So this open spot, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can go up a little bit bigger yet. Okay, so down here at the bottom of this leaf, see how that's open right there? Well, if it's open, then it's going to color the whole thing. Well, we don't want that. So I'm going to go get a line, and I'm going to get my pencil. Okay, and I'm just going to take my pencil down here, and I'm just going to draw a little bit of a line right there just to close that off. Okay, I just held my mouse button down and just dragged a little teeny bit to close that off down there. Okay, so that should take care of it. And then I'm going to go back to my fill. I think that should take care of it. Let's make sure we have the right thing that we want here. Let's see. I think everything, let's check the, I think we're good though. Yep, I think we're good. Okay, so let's return. So now let's go back in and see if that will fill now. So let's make it a little bigger so we can see. Okay. And we've still got the green. Move it over here. And here's my fill, get my paint pot. And now I'm going to go back over here. Oh, good. See, now it's filled in so that it will not do that. So we can just click in all the areas of the leaf. And then I'm going to switch over here to the other side. Whoops, I did it again. Undo. There we go. And let's see if this leaf's okay. Yep, looks like this one's going to be okay. There we go. So we got all of that one done. Okay. And then I would like the little stem to be brown. So I'm going to click on my fill properties again. And I'm going to go down to a brown. I'm still going to leave it at a regular fill. And then I'm just going to go click on, let's just bring this over a little bit so you can see it. Okay. And click on the little stem of the pumpkin and make it brown. And I think I'm happy with that. I think that looks okay. Let's go down to 100% so we can see the whole thing. So there's our pumpkin. So we have our leaves green, and the pumpkin is orange, and the stem is brown. Okay. And that is going to be a standard fill. So the next thing I need to click next so that I can go work with different options here. Okay. Again, I can't digitize. I'm sorry, I can't digitize in inches. So I have to move up here, and I'm going to go back to the settings page. And I'm going to go to page 9. I'm going to click to millimeters for a second. Okay. And I'm going to push this down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And there is a link key right here. So right now I'm on one of the fill options. So this is the little stem. That's what's highlighted. I would like all of the fills to have the same properties. So if I click this little link, it looks like a chain link fence. All of my fills, you can see they're all selected down here, will be the same settings. Okay, so that's really nice because then you don't have to do each thing separately. You can do each one, you can do them all together. I think the density is fine at 100%. Auto means that it's going to just automatically choose what direction the stitches are going to go. So that's kind of cool in an auto digitizer. It helps you out. Okay. The pull compensation is this next button, and it automatically adds a little bit of pull compensation, which is very good, and that should be adequate for what we want. Now the next little button here is undersewing, and anytime you have fill stitches, you really need to have a little undersewing under it so that it will not pucker. You know, you won't pucker when you are stitching. So I am going to click on this button, and I'm going to turn my undersewing on. So my basic rule is if it's as big as my thumb or bigger, I need to have some undersewing under it. So all of these pieces are fairly good sized, and they need some undersewing. Okay, so I'm okay with that. I'm going to click OK then. So I got my undersewing turned on. So it says on now. So it's going to probably add a few more stitches to it. And now I want my outline properties to all be the same. So since I've got this linked, if you click the arrow, it will go until it does each individual little thing. Just keep clicking until you get to the first outline, and it'll eventually go. Hopefully, it's still going. Okay, there's the outline. So that's the satin stitch. Okay, and we actually have a couple of them because remember we had to add that little piece down here. So I'm going to go ahead and click link now so that all of my outline is going to be the same, because there's probably going to be two pieces because that little piece we had to draw in. And I'm going to leave it at 2 millimeters because this is pretty small, and the density at 100%. Sometimes I want my outline to be a little wider, so you would add a wider width there. Okay, so I'm going to leave mine at 2, and I'm going to click set. So that little link key, so what I did with those little arrow keys was I kept going until I got to my outline. And then I could link all of those types of stitches, and I could change all of the settings at the same time. Okay. So, okay, I think I'm happy with that. We're going to hit set. And I'm going to click OK. See, look, now we're on the sewing side. Well, I do notice that I got a little overzealous with my pumpkin moving, so it needs to go up a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and edit. And I'm going to click move. And I'm going to click center, and then I'm going to bring it back down to where I want it. So I think I want it a little lower, maybe about right there. How's that look? So about in there, I think should look good because we need to put some letters above it yet. Okay. And I'm going to click OK. So I think I'm happy with that. So that is just the pumpkin. Okay, that's just the pumpkin and the leaves and the stem. So we're almost done. So we're getting closer here. We got a couple more things to add. Now, so I would like to add the lettering, Hello Fall, to this. So to do that, this is going to be more like you may have done in the past. You click the add button, and then I'm just going to go to my lettering fonts in the machine. And I am going to choose, I think I chose number 8 in my Luminaire, and I think in the Dream Machine it was like number 24. And you do have to have the upgrade 2 to have this stitch in there. Otherwise, just choose a font that you like. I think I'm happy with that one. And then I'm going to choose, I'm just going to type in the words I want. So I want H, a capital H, and then I want to go down to the lowercase letters over here, and I'm just going to type in E, and then L, L, O, okay? Now, this machine will allow me to do 2 lines. So I'm going to click the enter key down here, and then I'm going to go and type in the word fall. I want a capital F, so I'm going to click F, click capital letters, here's the F, and then I'm going to go down to the lowercase letters. And then we're going to, oops, second here, A, here we go, A, L, L. I like this font because it's kind of a cursive font. So for those of you with older machines, you don't have that enter key to do multiple lines at the same time. So you have to set one and then go back and do the second line. So this machine allows us to, most of the machines now have this feature, so it's pretty cool. Okay. Now I am going to change my letter font to a different color. If you're sewing from a machine file that's saved in the machine, the machine will stop after the outline here and before the letters, even though they're all black. But if you're sewing from a PES file, it needs to be a different color. So I am going to go ahead and change the color here by hitting the set button. Okay, and I'm going to change those colors by going edit, and I'm going to go get the color change button here, and then I'm just going to make them like rust. We'll just choose those in a different color so that the letters, oops, second here, it didn't go. Pull these up a little bit. See if we can get the letters to move to a different color. Oh, I know, I have to go down here. Sorry, I forgot to click on the little thing down here. Got to click on the letters. There we go. So I have to go down here, and I'm going to click on these and make them a different color so that the machine will stop. And Denise, I'm getting to your question, so let me change these colors. Whoops, I just didn't get them all done, did I? Let's try it again. Gotta move down here to the letters. I'm in that little color change thing. And second, my mouse isn't working real well. There we go. So I'm just going to do these all in the same color. I'm just clicking on each letter. That's how you have to change the colors, is individual letters. It's kind of weird. Instead of you can't do the whole thing at the same time. Okay, and then here's fall. So I'm going to go down to fall, and then here's the 4 letters of fall. Okay, so I'm just changing those colors so that the machine will stop. Because I noticed that when I took my PHX file that I created in the machine, we'll talk about that in a second, when I went to make it into a PES file, then the letters and the outline were the same color, which was black, because the letters default to black, and then it would not stop. It didn't stop. It just, you couldn't change your colors of your letters then. Okay, so there we go. So I got them changed. So I added that to the instructions because I knew I was going to change this to a PES file. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these lined up now. This hello, fall. I'm going to click the move button. Let's center it, and then I'm just going to move it straight up until I'm happy with where it's at. Okay, so Denise asked, why didn't you have to digitize the outline stitch around the pumpkin and leaves? That was what we scanned in, Lynn, or I'm sorry, Denise. We scanned in and made it an outline. But even though it's an outline, we can still fill it. So it was already an outline, and then we added the fills to it. So we didn't have to digitize it twice. Does that answer your question, hopefully? Okay. So there's my hello fall. I have centered it where I wanted it. I've got it the color I wanted. And again, the color thing, you just go up here to the little color button right here with the spool. And then you have to scroll down until you get to the item you want to change the color of. Okay. So that was the letters. And I just chose each letter individually and clicked on the color I wanted. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Well, we're getting close now. So we've got the whole front done, and we've got our little design, and we scanned him in, and we made him into an embroidery design, and we've got our letters on there. Now we need to sew the backing on this little thing. So we've got, this thing has a back. Let me put this in front of the camera again. So this thing has a back, okay, and it has these little ribbons to hang it from on it, okay. So we need to sew that down. So the last step is actually just going to be a like a sewing line that's going to sew the whole thing together. Okay. Jan, it's hard to describe. It's not the way the machine thinks. The machine thinks of the letters each individually. So I can't link things together. And actually, I could have. I suppose I could have, but I'm still not sure that they do it in to change the colors. I think you still have to go down and do the letters individually when you're changing the colors. So I think you can actually do something with them by selecting them all with the select tool down here. And you can select all, or you can just select certain areas. But I still don't know that it would let me change the colors of the letters individually. I think I have to do them individually yet, because I've always had to do that before. I'll play with that and see if I can answer that question better. Okay, so now we need to add the outline. So we need to add the, because we're not in, see the link function that I used was in Design Center. So we're not in Design Center right now. We're in the sewing side of the machine. Okay, so that's, there's no really link, there's no link button on this side of the machine. Okay, there is a select key down here, so I can select stuff better, but there's no, the link key was in Design Center. So maybe that answered the question, hopefully. Okay, so I'm ready to do my sewing now. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to click add one more time. And I'm going to go back to Design Center because I need another line. And this time I'm going to use my line properties. Okay, so hopefully you can see where I'm at. I'm going to use my line properties. And this one I would like it to be that triple stitch so that it's real strong around the outside edge. And I'm just going to make it any old color, doesn't matter. I just chose purple. So Denise, the letters are not in Design Center. The letters are in the sewing side of the machine. So there's no link button that I remember there being in the sewing button or in the sewing side. So I'm on the, I was on the sewing side, not in Design Center. Okay. The embroidery end is where the letters are. So we were in a different part of the machine. Okay, so here's the purple. I'm going to click OK. And I need to go back and get my shape again because it needs to be another square. And this needs to be an outline as well. So I'm going to choose this, the outline tab and then a square and click OK. I want to, oh, but you know what? I've been in millimeters, so I'm going to have to go back to inches. I'm going to go back up here to the settings. Hopefully you can see this. I'll move the camera just a little bit up so you can see the settings page. Here it is. And then I'm going to go back to page 9 in my machine to inches. And I'm going to click OK at the bottom. Okay, so we'll move this down a little bit so you can see what I'm clicking. Trying to make sure I can see it. Okay. There we go. Then I'm going to go to size. And I'm going to go to 5.75 by 5.75 because that was the original outline size. Okay, so 5.75 inches square. Then I'm going to click OK. And remember, we chose that triple stitch. Okay. I'm going to click next. And now I'm in inches again, of course. So now I have to go back to millimeters. So I'm not going to show you that you know what I'm doing. I'm clicking the settings button. I'm going to page 9 and I'm going to go back to millimeters for my digitizing. And I want this outline to be a little longer. So when I do a triple stitch, I usually want the stitches to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to go to 3 millimeters. Okay. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm happy with that setting. And I'm going to click Set and OK. And now we have, we'll go through the little list here. Okay. So here's that placement line for the batting and the fabric. Okay. And then we're going to tack all that down. Then we're going to quilt it. Then we're going to put the pretty little decorative outline on there. Then it's going to sew all the pieces of the pumpkin. Okay. Then it's going to sew Hello Fall. And then it's going to sew the thing together. Okay. So let's go back and look at that real quick, Denise. You know, here's those letters, you know. And if you're going into the edit and to do this, there is no link button here. So when you do the letters, second, if I can choose them, I don't think I can choose all of them at the same time. You always have to click on the like color numbers down here, and you can see they're all individual. So let me see, does this one give me any option to, let's see. There's another button here, this little triple thing, and let me see if that does it for us. For some reason, my mouse isn't working now. Okay, come on. Come on, mouse. Okay, now it's mad, so it won't work. Uh-oh. Okay, so everything locked up on me. Now I hit the lock button. That makes sense. Okay, here we go. So yeah, so that even this is not going to allow me to change those letters. The machine thinks of letters differently. And so you still have to change your letters individually. Yes, you could have done that. I could have done that. Yes, Jackie. I think you can actually choose the letters, the letter color before you do it. Yes. So that would be another way you could have done it instead of having to change them afterwards. I just forget because they're always defaulted at black and I just forget. So I usually just have to go back and change them. So that's a very good idea. So I think you could. So if you choose your color and then do your letters, I think you can do it that way. Okay. Where does the fuse batting go on, first or back? The batting, the fusible fleece goes on the back of the front piece in the center, Jackie. Okay, so we're going to get to that here in a second. Okay, so here is our little design. If I click embroidery now, we're ready to embroider it. So the first thing is, that placement line, and then we're going to go to the tack down, and then it's going to sew the quilting and the decorative line, and then it's going to sew the pumpkin and the leaves and the outline, and then it's going to sew the letters, and then the last step is going to be the sew the whole thing together. Okay, so yeah, I think that would work, Jackie. That's a very good idea, because I just forget that the letters default as black, and if I would have sewn from this file that I just created right here, this is a PHX file. So let's talk about that now. When you create a file in the machine, in the Luminaire and the Solaris, it makes a PHX file. In the older machines, it makes a PHC. It's not PES. Okay. So if I would have sewn directly from this file that I created, then the letters, even though they were all black and the outline was black, the machine would have stopped in between. But it will not stop if I created it into a PES, because I wanted all of you to be able to sew it. So I took that PHC, or in this case, a PHX, and made it into a PES file. So that's when I noticed that the colors were different. So when I did this originally, I did not change the colors of the letters because I knew they'd stop, but they don't stop in the PES because it just grouped all the black outline and the letters all together because it was the same color. That's the way PES thinks. Okay. So this is the file then I could sew from. All right. Now I did sew this out from the PES file that I put up on the group. So I'm going to sew from that file tonight because I want to make sure everything lines up, in case I made a mistake on this one and everything lines up okay. So I am going to sew from that file. But this file right here, I would now click memory and I would save it in the machine or back to a stick. Okay. Then it is now saved in my machine or on a stick, and then I have it to sew from again. Okay, let me think about that for a little bit. Denise asked another question. Let me think about that for a minute, and then I will see if I have a better answer. Okay. All right. So here is the design all ready to go, and this is saved to my machine. Now, when I go to sew this, so let me show you how I sewed it, and we're just going to sew a little bit. I gave you the PES file, and that's what I sewed mine from. So I am going to go back to my PES file so that I don't mess up my sample. Okay. What you need is you need to put a piece of no-show mesh stabilizer in your hoop. Okay, I'm gonna move my. How do you convert to PES? Okay, Jan, what you do? this PHC or PHX in this case, you have to import it into PE Design 11, and then it becomes a PES file. So that's how I did it, because I have the Brother software, and I just imported it into my software and made it a PES file. Okay, so this is now my hoop. I have these in a 6x10 because I had 2 of them and I wanted them all to be in the same size hoop, the 2 options. Okay, the 2 samples I have. And this is the front fabric. It's 7x7. Okay, so I'm still reading yours, Denise, to see if I understand. If you use scan in software, you have to digitize the scan line like the outline of the pumpkins and leaves. But if you scan into machine, it automatically creates the scan lines as satin stitches. It does if you tell it to, Denise. If you're using software, you have to do your outline separately. This machine, the machine thinks differently, and it does the outline, and then you can add the fill. It thinks differently. Design Center in PE Design, you know, the software on our computer, thinks the way the machine does. And so it thinks in outlines, and then you can fill the outlines. It's kind of cool the way it works, and it's a continuous outline. So I really kind of like it because I like making stuff in the machine, because it does the same thing as my old Design Center, thus the name, I think, because it works the same way as what I used in PE Design. Okay. All right, so let's sew this. So we've got our file, and I'm actually going to use a different file. I'm going to go get my PES now. And I used my PES, and I was so proud. I transferred it wirelessly with my new wireless function. So here is that little, this is where it is. When you get it here wirelessly, it's under the little wireless thing. And it's down here, and you can have 50 designs in here at the same time. So there's my little design that I transferred over. Okay, and I'm going to click. That confused you? Yeah, that it's different. So depending on how you scan it in, Denise, you can scan it in and make an outline, because you noticed I used line. And if you scan it in and use the image one, it'll do a fill without the line. Does that make it more clear? It depends on how you scan it in. So if you scan it in as a line, it will do the line, and you can add the fill to it. But if you scan it in as an image, like the second button, whatever it says, then it will be a fill and no outline. Does that make more sense? So, okay. So I've got my design. So I'm going to use the PES because I wanted to make sure they both line up. Okay. So I'm going to hit embroidery. Okay. And we're going to do this the quick and dirty way because I have another sample here. Okay. So I wanted to show you how to get this started. I have my background fabric, and I have adhered my fusible fleece to the center of it. Okay. So that's what I did here. All right. Then I'm going to stitch out step number 1, because remember that was our placement line, right? So I'm going to sew out step number 1. Hopefully it won't hit the camera. Whoops. Helps, Jan, if you thread the machine. Did you know that? Let's try that again. We try threading it, then it sews a lot better. Okay. Aren't you glad I do these things on camera for all of you? Okay, so, and remember what I said at the beginning, that there's not really a single stitch in this software. It always goes around it twice. I've never been able to figure out a way just to get a single outline in Design Center, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. So that's our placement line. I did it in white just because that's what I had in the machine. So I'm sorry you can't see it probably very well. So it's just making the placement line. But isn't that fun to play around in Design Center? I mean, there's so many things you can do with it. You can make the entire design right in the machine, and you never have to go to software. If you don't have software, you don't need it. You can do all kinds of stuff in Design Center. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to put a little glue stick inside that placement line just to hold down my fabric. So I'm just going to take my fabric glue stick and put a little glue stick in there. And then I'm going to center, whoop, hopefully I didn't knock the camera over. I'm going to center my fusible fleece inside that line. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, put that inside that line there. Kind of get it centered in there. I made the fusible fleece the same size as the outline, so you should be able to get it in there fairly well. Okay. And I'm just going to press it down. I think it's pretty close. I think I got it. Okay. Then I'm just going to hold it a little bit. And the second line then is my tack down line. So it's going to go around the outside edge of that fusible fleece and tack that down to my stapler. And I gave you the sewing instructions. I'm just going off the sewing instructions here. Okay, so I gave you these also. I think I got my fusible fleece a little bit big, but it's okay. So it's going to go around that one twice too. So yeah, Denise, remind me before we end, I'll go back to Design Center quickly for you so that I can show you the two buttons, because I think that's what it is. It depends on the button you choose when you scan originally, what it's going to do for you. Okay. All right. So then the third step is going to be our quilting. So it's going to do the quilting. Okay. I'm not going to stitch that out tonight for you because the rest of this design is going to be just sewing. So it's going to do the quilting. Then it's going to do the outline, you know, that pretty decorative outline. Then it's going to do the pumpkin parts and then the Hello Fall. That I know you guys can all do that. Okay. So, but I did want to show you how to finish this. Okay. So I sewed this out. So I'm going to back this up and I'm going to pull this hoop out and I'm going to put another one in. So I sewed this out so that it's ready to be finished. So here's my design all sewn out. Okay, so it was ready to do the quilting. So here's the quilting. Here's that decorative outline that we made. Then here's the pumpkin and the leaves. And here's the lettering. Okay, in the kind of rust color. So now I'm ready to finish it. So I wanted to show you how to do the finishing part. So give me a second. I'm going to try to raise the camera up just a little bit so that you can look down on the hoop a little bit. When I do the screen, you have to be so much lower. So I'm going to try to raise this up a little bit so you can see the hoop a little bit better. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do, we're ready for the last step. So I'm just going to forward my machine to the very last step to sew it together. Okay. And you need a couple of pieces of ribbon. Now this is like an organza ribbon. That was the only color I had that matched. So you're going to fold these in half. And I'm going to take a little piece of the Kimberbell paper tape. And this is where the fold is, right here down at the bottom. And I'm going to lay this little piece of ribbon right at the bottom of my little outline and just inside the outside edge. And I'm just going to tape this down. And I'm going to tape it outside of the sewing area. Okay, like that. So I'm going to lay that one there. And I'm going to do the other side the same way. So I'm going to fold my little ribbon in half. And I'm going to put it right inside that line. And I'll hold it up so you can see it. And I'm just going to tape this down. So then my little ribbon tag. So don't forget to put your ribbons on so you can hang it up in your little hanger. Okay. So you can see what I did. So I put it just inside the corner here on each side. So they're even then. And then I have this is the loop part. This is the folded edge right down here, right at the very bottom of my little decorative outline. Okay. Then I'm going to lay there's two pieces of fabric that were for the back. Okay. So one, you're going to leave just as is, all flat. The other one, you're going to fold down about 1/2 inch and make a little hemmed edge. And then you're going to put a piece of the, I ironed a piece of the Steam-A-Seam 2 onto the fold here. And I leave the paper on it because we're gonna use that to close the back up. Okay, so here's my Steam-A-Seam on that one. So I'm gonna lay that one down first. I think I always do these backwards. Maybe it's because I'm left-handed. I don't know, but I always do the bottom first. So I'm gonna pull this out so you can see it. I'm gonna lay the folded edge with the fold up. This is the wrong side of the fabric with the Steam-A-Seam on it. I'm gonna lay this on the bottom of my little hanger here. Okay, like that. Then I'm gonna take the unfolded one and I'm going to lay it on the top. And you can do it the other way around, doesn't matter. Either way is fine. Okay. And then I want to make sure that my foot doesn't catch when it comes around this side over here. So I'm just going to put a little piece of tape where I know the foot's going to be coming around where that open edge is. So I don't want it to pull it out of the hoop. Okay. So I got that little piece in there. I'm going to push this back in. And then the last step, I'm on the last step of the design. The last step is that little triple stitch, and it's going to go all the way around the outside edge. See, we've got an envelope back, is what these are called. And it's going to go all the way around the outside edge. And that's where that little ribbon is. So I'm just going to make sure that it doesn't catch. There we go. So I've got it all written out for you. So I think everybody will be able to get the little finishing done. This was such a fun project. I did this several years ago, and I had never given anybody like the PES file, so like now everybody can sew it out. I think I only gave everybody the instructions to make it themselves. So unless you made it, you didn't get to sew it. So now everybody can sew it. So it's going up where that tape is. I'm just kind of watching it. Yep, should be fine. We're just about done. There we go. All right. So I'll remove the tape here. We'll take this out. And then I'm going to take this out of the hoop, and we're going to I just trim it 1/4 inch away all the way around the outside edge. I just use scissors, and you can use your rotary cutter if you want to. I'm really bad with the rotary cutter, so I usually use my scissors. Okay, so we'll take those off. Take these 2 pieces of tape off too. And then I'm just going to trim that down. Before you turn it right side out, second here, let me take this out so you can see. Before you turn it right side out, though, there's another piece of fusible fleece. So I had you cut 2. So you're going to take this to the iron before you turn it right side out and iron this on the back like that. So that there's another little piece of fusible fleece on there that gives it a little bit more body. Okay, so do that. Make sure you iron that on before you turn it right side out. All right, so once you turn it right side out, then you remove that little piece of tape that we had on there. Okay, and then you can take the little piece of paper off the Steam-A-Seam and then just go ahead and steam it shut. Just iron it shut, and then it will be nicely finished on the back. Wherever I put my little, where'd it go? Here it is. Okay, so here's the finished one. So see, I have this is finished, and then it's got that little Steam-A-Seam stuff there so that it's closed on the back and it's not gaping open. Okay, and then I just ironed it nicely, and then that second piece of fusible fleece is in here, so it gives it some nice little poof and body. Okay, and there's your little design, and that was all done in the machine. So the one that I gave everybody is the original one that I did. So it was done in the machine. I just made it into a PES file so everybody could sew it, whether you had this design center or not. Okay. So Denise, let me show you real quickly then. Denise had that question about design center. Let me show you quickly what she's talking about. So when you go to scan, Let's go back to Design Center here quickly. So the sewing part's really easy, isn't it? So we go back here to design, and what she was talking about is there's 2 buttons, and remember we chose the line button. So whatever button you tell it to scan with, so here's my leaf up here. Okay, here's the leaf up here. All right. And then when you get down here, there's an image scan, and that's just going to give you an image. There's a line design. That's what we chose, Denise, and then it did the outline and digitized that for us. And then the illustration design. So if I'd chosen illustration, it would have been a fill area instead of the outline. And then I wouldn't have been able to add, you could add the outline, but you would have had to brought it in on top, and it's kind of annoying to do it. So you would have had to scan it twice. So if you do the line design and scan that, then you have the ability to fill the line designs. But it's really hard to put the outline on because then you got to do it, you got to scan it twice. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. But that's what she was talking about, is that those buttons. So you have to choose what you're wanting it to do. I wanted the line. I usually use line design because then I can fill the inside of that line with anything I want. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. What does the image scan do? It does exactly what it says. It'll just scan an image for you. In other words, a JPEG. So it's just sort of like the scan and cut will do the same thing. You know, it has the ability to just make a JPEG. So if you just hit image on the scan and cut, it'll just do it's like having a scanner on your computer. So it's the same thing. Okay. So does that help everybody? Isn't that a fun project? I mean, I've done a ton of these things, and we're going to do some more of these. I've got a couple of really cute pillows that I did over the years, and unless you did the design yourself, I mean, and some of them you may not have ever seen. So we'll do a couple more of these so that you can make a couple more projects right in the machine. It's just fun to do, and a lot of you have this machine, you know, have this ability now because they keep putting it in more and more machines. So a lot of you have it, so you can do it in a lot of the different price ranges of machines. That embroidery only one, that the Stellare, is really cool, so you can do it in that too. So okay, so next week is Labor Day weekend. So let me change my camera here really quick. Next weekend is Labor Day weekend, and so we will have the weekend off. And just a second, I have to change my microphone so you can hear me better. Okay, am I back? All right, so next weekend we will have the weekend off. The following weekend, is it the 12th? Is that the Saturday? Does that sound right? Is that the Sunday, I mean? Is the 12th of September. Gosh, can you believe it's September already? Yes, the 12th. So that will be software class, and that's when we're going to do, I'll grab it here. That's when we're going to do the cute little, I think some of you saw that, if the shoe fits. So we're going to make another one of these in the software. And this time we're going to learn how to make a design out of a SVG file. So this was actually a cut file that I made this embroidery design out of. Okay. And so I thought that'd be a fun project. And I wanted another one of these for Halloween to put in my little thing. So I just made it into one of these. You don't have to, but I just like these little things hanging in my sewing room. So, okay. So that's what we're going to do on the 12th. So next week we will have the week off. So everybody have a nice Labor Day and very safe. Stay safe, everybody. And I'm going to hang out with Dad probably and maybe move my house around. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to move my long arm again. So I may be moving furniture, or I'll be working on the quilt because I worked on that today. So I've been working on the quilt instructions. So, okay. Is there any other questions? Everybody good? Everybody think they can do this? I gave you all the instructions to do it in the machine, and I had written them for the Dream Machines and the Luminaires. So, you know, there's both sets of instructions there. Okay. And then you can sew out your little, please make sure you post your little designs once you sew them, because I'm anxious to see everybody's designs. Okay. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good evening, and we'll be seeing you in a couple weeks. Bye, everybody.